Frosted Caribou is back, and she recently released a scathing video criticizing the current state of the Pokemon market. Now, we haven't seen a video like this from Frosted Caribou since 2021, during the last major Pokemon boom. But the question is she right? Or is some of the commentary and criticism invalid or misdirected? That's what I wanted to address in today's video, and although I don't usually get involved in these PokeTuber drama type of videos, I do think this is a conversation that's worth having. I'm Pokemon Classics, and I invite you to join me. Let's roll the intro. For those of you that missed it, Frosted Caribou is a longtime YouTuber here on the platform, and for a while she's been a professional commentator for the Pokemon trading card game, traveling with to Worlds and to other competitive events. But recently she dropped a video addressing what she regards as the primary issue affecting the Pokemon card market, and that's this attention-driven economy that surrounds everything, along with speculation. And she theorizes that that is fundamentally changing the way people view and interact with the hobby, no longer seeing it from the lens of just passionate collecting, and instead financial incentive and pursuit. Now, I don't want to misrepresent Frosted Caribou, so I'll go ahead and leave her video link down in the description below, and I encourage you all to check it out. The editing is phenomenal, and I do think it's a worthwhile conversation to have here in this space. But I also want to point out that she posted a similar video, a shockingly similar video, back in 2021 during the post-pandemic boom. Now, this is her most popular video on her entire channel, and it addresses many of the same issues: the scalping, the shortages, the price spikes. And I think all of those are issues that many people in this community are rightfully concerned with. But there is one big difference that she addressed with this video versus the previous one. That's the previous one was specifically targeting content creators, and this one seems to take the blame more broadly, talking about it being a systemic issue, more of a cultural shift about how we're viewing Pokemon. So it's not necessarily individual content creators' fault, but rather the system that we're all operating within. So here's my hot take. Frosted Caribou is right. Well, mostly. The culture of Pokemon is undoubtedly changing. The way people perceive and interact with collecting Pokemon cards is increasingly done through a financial lens. And I know personally I would rather see it be more authentic, pure, and wholesome, with people focusing on the emotions, the nostalgia, and just the act, the process of collecting. But the reality is that financial piece is here to stay. There's nothing one singular person can do to change that. And I think her video does a good job of acknowledging that this is a larger systemic issue rather than attributable to one singular factor. One thing I disagree with, though, is there are certainly people in this hobby that are motivated by greed, who don't care about the IP or the community, but I find that many, I'm going to say most of the people here are working within the system to try to help others. I noticed her video included Pat Flynn, and I can't think of a better example than that. Sure, he's probably making money off of his content, but at the same time, he's adding so much value and enrichment to people's lives by hosting Card Party, through the giveaways, through videos that provide a wholesome, enjoyable experience that showcases what collecting is actually like. You've got people that were in the video like TCA Gaming and Danny Phantom. I can't think of more honest sellers / people on the platform that are out there educating people since the very beginning. Or people like Gary and Leonhardt, who are very charitable and have done charitable outreach in the past and have had a passion for Pokemon way before it was ever profitable. I gotta give credit to all those individuals, and I think anybody that's being objective should as well. So again, the problem is systemic, and I've shown this chart on the channel before, but I really see 4 phases of this process that all feed into one another. The first is the investing FOMO, as hype is built, and this is often through pervasive content, what Frosted Caribou would call the attention economy, focusing on the financial opportunity piece. And that leads to the inaccessibility of products, because when people see a financial opportunity, well, that's when the scalping, the bots, and other ethically questionable means to acquire product are going to manifest. And the inevitable result of that is when supply is gone and demand is at all-time highs, is price inflation. People that are profit-seeking are going to seek to capitalize on that, and that leads to exploitation. The higher prices go, the more greed is involved, the more bad actors and the more creative scams are going to enter this hobby that we all love. And this process just builds on each other and expands, and it's just a constant rotation. So I'll give Frosted Caribou credit for rightly diagnosing the problem, that the way Pokemon is regarded and approached has fundamentally changed, but I think she's only focused on one factor. And to be fair, she may feel that this particular factor, the social media side of things, is the most relevant one, or perhaps the one that's most under her control as a social media influencer herself. So I appreciate her take on the problem, but I think she's missing the most important part, and that's the solution. So what is the solution? Unfortunately, we can't just fix the market or fix the hobby. It's not that simple. It's going to take a while for this to burn itself out and to have equilibrium restored once more, but that will happen eventually as supply and demand come back into balance. What we can do in the meantime is find ways to work within the system to make a difference at a grassroots level. For example, I'm a teacher and the educational system is certainly flawed in its own ways. I'm tasked with fixed curriculum, set schedules, assessments and standards that are mandated that I have to cover, and it makes it very difficult to do the job as effectively as I'd like to. For example, one assignment we have is we're required to write a persuasive paper that's citing from multiple different sources. Now, one of the challenges here is it's not very engaging, 2, it's difficult to teach, and 3, it's very susceptible to cheating using AI technologies like ChatGPT. So instead of just following the path of least resistance, I've invested time and effort to create a CSI murder mystery unit. And in this unit, we stage a crime scene where students have to take photos, sketches, make notes. Then they run through evidence labs, testing fingerprints and other forensic evidence and collecting data to analyze. They're given briefings that they have to scour through for information on suspect profiles, their alibis, floor plans of the different buildings and locations. And then they draft a paper. It's a whodunit paper where they argue in a realistic way, as a prosecutor, who the guilty person is based on a motive, flaws in the testimony, and then physical evidence connecting a suspect to the actual crime. Then there's a follow-up debate and reflection throughout this process. It's way more engaging and it's way more effective and less susceptible to cheating. I've even had one student reach out in the last year that is now working as a forensic investigator and wanted to let me know how much this unit meant to them. It's a small change. It's not fixing the whole problem of public education, but there are little things that each one of us can do in our own role to try to make the situation better. I guess the point I'm trying to make is you have to be willing to be the change. Change can't be coerced, not at this level anyway, but you can always offer an alternative to what's out there. And sure, there's a lot of greed, there's scams, there's bad actors, but there's also so much generosity, kindness, passion, and authenticity in this community too. And I know I've experienced it firsthand, and I'm sure many of you have out there as well. And I think that's worth noting, that you have to take the good and the bad. In my English classes, there's a book that I teach. It's called The Alchemist, and it really synchronizes with my worldview in certain ways. There's a quote in the book that says, "When we strive to become better than we are, everything around us becomes better too." I think that's important because when we do look at ways we can better ourselves and better our immediate circle, that has a ripple effect on the broader world and the broader community. That's advice I've tried to live by. Anybody can be a critic, and there's nothing wrong with acknowledging the many issues that exist in this space, but we can all do more than just that. Maybe you share your knowledge and educate others. Maybe you run an honest business with integrity. Maybe you give away cards or help others source products in an ethical way. Maybe you build up others with positive and uplifting comments. Maybe you meet with fans and give them your full attention, validating them. Maybe you bring joy to your audience through the humor or the adventure that you infuse into videos. This can be done on so many different ways, and even the smallest of contributions can have a significant difference. Anyway, I congratulate Frosted Caribou on her decision to return to YouTube and for opening up this conversation. And even if we don't agree on every point, I hope she can also play a role in helping shape this community into its best possible form. That's really a collective challenge for us all. Speaking of which, let me know your thoughts from this video down in the comments below. Is Pokemon stuck in a systemic shift, or do you see this as a fixable problem? And if so, what recommendations would you offer? Anyway, guys, I'm Pokemon Classics, reminding you all that the classics never go out of style. Until next time, stay well, and as I say in every video, have fun collecting. That's really what this is all about. Bye, everybody.